Hello everybody. I want to talk about the Holy Trinity. That's what I call it, at least. This is really inspired. This is really inspired by a course I took back in my prior life when I was going to school while I was working at the paper mill. I went to a small school that was designed for business people. We had classes on Saturdays and Sundays. Often a class would be just Saturday and Sunday, all day long Saturday, all day long Sunday, and maybe the next weekend as well. Big project to do, and that comprised kind of the class. I was studying organizational communication and with a minor in training and development at that point in time, because that was pertinent to the work I was doing at Boise Cascade. Dr. Lynn Bales was a consultant as well as an instructor at the school, and I loved Lynn. She was an amazing person, really just brilliant. And I took organizational psychology with her. Organizational communication. It was cross-listed as organizational psychology, and I took a trilogy course with her, a sequence, 3 courses: needs assessment, program design, and program evaluation. And it really was life-altering for me to understand this, especially in a business context, but in a legal context. So over the past couple of years now, just recently, I've kind of reintroduced these ideas in org psych, psych and law, psych of adjustment, and personnel psych. Let's go through and think about what we have happening here. Consider that it's insanely inefficient, wasteful, and demotivating to engage in activities that don't need to be done in the first place. And in a previous lecture, remember, I was screaming there ought to be a law, there ought to be a law, in reference to Kitty Genovese. When something occurs, it attracts attention, it gets people all fired up, and they start screaming there ought to be a law. But the problem is, that's opinion, and that's emotion-based reasoning. But does there need to be a law? And if there does, what should it look like? And if we do institute a law, how the hell do we know down the road that it was worthwhile, that it's working? So this is an effort to be more systematic, right? So the systematic exploration and verification is at the heart of this. The philosophy is surprisingly simple and is embodied in this line of inquiry. So here are the questions. First of all, is there a problem or is there an opportunity? And that would constitute the needs assessment, right? And then the program design. If there is a need, then we need to design a program to address it. How it should be addressed is the design of the program. And then, once we design a program, let us not just institute the program, let it run, and never revisit it. What we really need to do at this point is say, okay, was our program effective? Was it useful? Is it cost efficient? Right? So those are the 3 pillars: the needs assessment, the program design, and the program evaluation. So needs assessment. Is there a need? Yeah, no, that really is the question, right? How do we know? And this is where it gets interesting, and this is where it gets tricky. And especially for those of us who are trained in experimental design, data collection, and data analysis, you can see where this is going. The first thing we need to do is figure out if there's a need. Now, we may write questionnaires, we may collect data, we may float hypotheses and see if they're supported or not, right? And that's how we know. So needs assessment. What is needed, and then we ask the question, how do we know? We got to move away from opinion. Opinion is, let's face it, the powerful and the rich opinions win. And it's the antithesis of democracy, right? And we could even make an argument against a majority. Really, what we need is scientific reasoning at the basis of this. What's needed? How do we know? What do the scientific results tell us in this regard? So, how do I figure this out? Well, who do we need to talk to? Right off the bat, if I believe there's a need, who do I talk to determine if there's a need or not? What data would demonstrate a need or lack of need, right? Is there existing data? Maybe there's already data out there, and I just need to look at that data in the context of this question, right? So how do we verify existing data, right? Do we need to conduct our own studies if data is lacking? And many of us have those skills as part of our college experience. We take research methods, we take data analysis. Those are clutch, right? So how do we integrate our findings? And this is another aspect of our college education, is we learn how to summarize data, how to report, and how to write in a manner, and how to present data in an effort to persuade. So based on the needs assessment, if this all comes out and we can demonstrate empirically with data that there's a need, leaving opinion behind, I think there should be, I don't care what people think. What does the data say, right? Okay. Now, data is the great equalizer. If we like to live in hierarchical, authoritarian societies, those are run by opinion, right? If we want to be in an egalitarian society, those are better facilitated by the use of data, right, to make decisions. So, program decide based on our determination of what's needed. How do we move our system, or whatever it is, in the desired direction towards where we want to go with this based on our needs assessment? Has anything like this ever been attempted before? Maybe someone has done this before. We investigate and see if anyone's done it before. What did they do, right? How is it the same? How is it different? Did it work out? Look, if someone's already done this before and it didn't work, why would we want to do it again in the same way? Right? Isn't that the definition of stupidity? Doing something in the same way and expecting it to work when it hasn't in the past, right? So, who do we need to involve in this? And this is especially critical because a lot of times when we're changing something up, we need buy-in. You like that term? We need buy-in, right? And to the extent that people, the actors in the system, have participated in this process, their buy-in is assured to a greater degree. How will they potentially react to changes in the system? And this is something we need to know going forward, right? What resources will likely be required in terms of time, money, person power, etc. So this is all elements leading into the program design. Now, continuing with the program design, what are the potential costs and benefits? What are the potential unanticipated consequences? And this is something that people rarely think about. Is, wow, what could go wrong? Everyone, when they develop a program, says, look at what this program's going to do. Well, the more important conversation beyond that is, look at how this program might fail or might create consequences that are undesirable. So, eyes open going into this. If our program causes unintended and or especially negative consequences, what is our contingency plan to address those? Okay? What measures will be needed to assess our progress or success? And the measurement, the evaluations are built into the program design when we use the system effectively. Now the program evaluation then, fundamental to program evaluation is building the evaluations into the program and the program design. So as I'm designing the program, we're always asking the question, how will we know this worked? What will we evaluate? What aspects of the program we're designing will constitute our evaluation, right? So, how will we know that it's generating the desired results? What measures can we employ? And again, those of us doing this education thing are learning, you think, oh my God, these methods classes, these statistics classes, what a waste of time, what bullshit. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that opinion. They're the most valuable courses that we can take because it allows us to convert opinion to data. And we start dealing in the real world, right? So when using multiple measures, what's the relationship between those measures do we expect? And that is the basis of a hypothesis. Is when I generate a hypothesis, I say, I expect to see. And then we support or refute that hypothesis, right? And what is the basis of our tests? Who, when, where, under what conditions, how will this be tested, right? So the program evaluation a little further. How much have we spent? As we're evaluating the program, are we on budget? Are we proceeding on schedule? Are we willing to endure any unforeseen circumstances or consequences? And are our measures sufficient, or have we left something out and it's keeping us from knowing what we need to know? So who does what? Well, ideally, we have 3 teams involved in this process. One team carries out the needs assessment, one team designs the program, and a third team carries out the evaluation. And I think you can figure out why this would be important to have 3 separate teams. Because, let's face it, if I think there's a need, that's my opinion, right? And I say, oh, there's a need, and I'm going to design the program to do it, and look at how bitchin' I am and how smart I am because my program worked. No. We need two firewalls between those three groups. I can't count, right? Organization leaders function as in a coordinating and oversight role. So the organizational leaders aren't conducting this, they are managing it. They are observing it from on high, so to speak. And how long do we persist? And this gets into this discussion of sunk costs. Who will determine the program's lifespan, its termination, its continuation, and or its expansion? So we have to say, hey, look, if we haven't seen results in a year, then we're going to revisit this. We're going to have a group revisit this and see if we should continue or not. And again, that should not be the program designer making that call. That should be an independent body. So again, yet another firewall. Based on what? And that should be built into the system from the very beginning. If applied to a new location or domain, what differences might be encountered? What might we expect to differ? And how might we address that? So this is going to lead us to discussion board 1. We're faced with trade-offs. That's what life is about, right? And in these trade-offs, if we go in with our eyes open and we say, well, these are the trade-offs, this is this, and I've got the data to support this, we can start making judgments that are a little more rational. So for our first DB, we're going to discuss the trade-offs that are a result of allowing cell phone use while driving. Now, I can argue that there's absolutely no reason to use a cell phone while one is driving. Hey, pull over. Or wait. Why is it necessary that one distract themselves by using a device? It's not necessary. I mean, there's probably, 1 in 1,000 circumstances or situations we could craft where we might argue that it's necessary. And how many of you want to argue with me right now? And I imagine a lot of you do, and that's cool. This is what I'm talking about. Opinion's bullshit. There's 7 billion of us on this planet, and we all have our own opinion, and we all think our opinions are wonderful. I'd rather get out of the opinion realm and start moving into the data realm, right? So it's okay to have an opinion, but then we got to look at the data to either support or refute our opinion and be open-minded in that regard. So now is an opportunity to apply the Holy Trinity to the adoption or not of a new law that's intended to increase public welfare, that is the common good, versus the individual right of being able to use a cell phone. So common good says no cell phones. You'll be safer if you don't use cell phones. It'll keep us all safer. Yay for the common good, no cell phones while driving. The individual right camp is like, no. This is a free country, and I have a right to talk on the phone whenever I want. And they'll probably invoke some stupid-ass freedom of speech argument, which doesn't apply in this circumstance. Probably the most misused argument is freedom of speech. Right? Freedom of speech is simply, we have the right to speak against the government. That's it. That's what it covers. So that's, we go past that, we're getting out on shaky ground in that argument. So individual right versus common good. Notice we're pulling everything together. I like to synthesize stuff in our course. So discussion board 1 further is going to move us down the path of exercising our ability to convert opinions to data, supported stances. Right? That rocks. Almost all of us have at least minimal exposure to scientific methodology in all of our courses. In fact, it's a prereq for this course, right? Is research methods. This is an opportunity to practice application of scientific method to a real-world problem. So, let's exercise and develop and enhance our critical thinking skills. So, here's what I want to see in discussion board 1. Right? Needs assessment. Is there a need for a law to prohibit cell phone use in vehicles by the driver operating the vehicle? That's our beginning question. Is there a need for this? Right? And then, now, here's questions that I want you to address, and these are all addressed through the discussion board. You're just posting on the discussion board. This is an individual assignment. No one's going to respond to it. Right? How do we know? How do we know there's a need? How would you determine if there's a need to ban cell phone use while driving? Okay? What evidence is there to prohibit cell phone use? Remember, it's not solely your opinion. Then I don't want to hear your opinion, right? We need evidence. And I don't mean that offensively, right? Include at least 2 pieces of reliable evidence for your position. And this means you're probably going to have to do a lit search. You're probably going to have to go on Google. And you're going to probably have to get some empirical evidence to support your position. Now, the design of the law. We can skip this one. Most of us don't have a bunch of legal training yet, so let's not go with the program design in this regard. But we can go to the evaluation stage. So that Holy Trinity, needs assessment, program design, and program evaluation. For the purposes of this assignment, we're doing needs assessment and we're doing the program evaluation. Evaluation. How do we know the prohibition was effective? What would demonstrate that banning cell phone use while driving was an effective solution? Was there a need, right? And establish the need one way or another. How do we know it was effective? What measures would you use? Okay? So, what are 2 anticipated? Now we're going to take it a step further, right? Because now I want to address the issue of pros and cons, or I want you guys to. What are 2 anticipated pros to the adoption of the prohibition? So if we prohibit cell phone use while driving, what are 2 benefits that are going to accrue from that law? But then, what are 2 cons? And we should be equally facile in arguing pros as we are arguing cons, right? How will we know? What will we measure down the road? And this is the program evaluation. What will we measure down the road to see if the anticipated pros and cons move from the anticipated to the actualized? What evidence do we need to support those 2 pros? What evidence do we need that would support those 2 cons? Okay? And finally, for DB1, now we're going to tie in the actors, right? Because the actors in the legal system would tend to view this differently, right? So, who are the actors that will benefit and suffer from the prohibition? Right? Identify 2 prohibition actors and describe what puts them in the pro camp. How did they benefit? And then identify 2 con prohibition actors and describe what puts them in the con camp. Please note the term actors doesn't have to be applied to individuals. This could be companies, this could be larger bodies, this could be groups, classes of people, etc. So when I say actors, we're expanding the use of that terminology to cover groups especially, right? And I'll give you one example. I'd prefer you don't use it, but if you want to, that's fine. It's not the best example anymore, but most cell phone use plans are unlimited now, right? But let's turn the clock back. Let's go back 10 years or so, maybe before you even actually had a cell phone. Maybe not, I don't know. But back in the day, you paid by the minute on your cell phone, right? So let's suppose I'm a cell phone carrier. I'm a company that sells minutes. What is the pro and the con to allowing cell phone use in the car or prohibiting it? Obviously, if I'm about selling minutes, I want people using their phone in the car. I want them using it everywhere, right? And if there's a prohibition, and I'm a cell phone minute seller, for lack of a better term, right, then a prohibition has huge cons. It hits my bottom line because I can't sell nearly as many minutes because that hour that people are in the car, they weren't able to talk on the phone, and I wasn't able to sell them minutes. So that's one way of looking at it, right? So let's think about who benefits from the policy and who doesn't, because there's going to be probably people who benefit and people who don't, and then we have to kind of weigh the pros and cons out there. You got questions about this? What are you going to do? As we said before, I want to see you in Zoom, and I want to see you asking me questions about this. I want you guys to be proactive. I want you to be ahead of your game. I saw a lot of waiting to the last minute last semester, and that's fine. I mean, I understand your students, you like to wait to the last minute, whatever, but it's time to learn some good work habits if you haven't developed them already. And many of you have, and many of you are upfront, proactive, Johnny on the spot. But if you have a problem with procrastination, it's not going to endear you to your future employers. And why not start breaking the habit now? It'll benefit you. You'll feel better for it. And let's call this one good. I got to go feed some cats. They're all lurking about, and they're all acting radical. You like the shirt my wife gave me for my birthday? My birthday was last month. Yeah, And I'm old, so take pity on me if you would, please. What do you think? How old am I? Yeah, 63 years old. Think about that. That's almost ancient. I feel like decrepit. Maybe I should be using a cane or some such. No, not so much. All right, you guys, again, I hope you don't mind a little joking around, a little levity. Maybe you don't even find it funny. I don't even know if I find it funny. But you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in the future.